Welcome to the part 2 of how to generate data for the Takeoff program. So in this video, it's just a continuation from the previous video. So in this video, we're going to focus on how to copy and modify existing data to create new ones. We're going to reference the server data, which is through the command acat parts inside CAD. And also going to show you how to reference other project databases to possibly, copy the data from them and then paste it into your own database. So without further ado, let's begin the training. In this portion of the training, obviously you need AutoCAD open, so open up your AutoCAD if you haven't done so already. And you also need the UD window, so prompt that open. Let's just dock it back up. Now minimize it. Okay. So if you take a look at our intersection report, so let's open that up as well. So I already have mine open. Right. These are all the list of quote unquote families inside Revit that doesn't have data tied to it from the server. So let's go down this list and make data for all the ones without the @ symbol behind it. So these @ symbol I will explain in a later video. That's basically a profile modifier. It's generating data for those is not any different, but let's just say for the sake of this training, let's just focus on these ones without the profile modifier. Okay, so all these. So let's start with row 19, SW75 3165 007. Oh, actually, in the last video we actually finished this one together. So let's keep track by highlighting this as done. This is done. Okay. So this one's right above it. So let's go with that one. So write this down: SW75 3165 007. So let's go take a look inside our Bluebeam session and see what kind of detail we're dealing with. 007. Okay, so it looks like it's a invisible strip head at a door, but with customized face stop in the front with utilizing channels. Okay, so let's enter the data for that, but we're going to tweak it a little bit. We're not going to do it from scratch. It's going to take a long time. All right, so what I like to usually do is take a look inside within your own database first. So let's say this one. So a good rule of thumb is start out with the part that you're dealing with, which is W75 3165. This is your main extrusion. So you have two. Okay. So you have one that's used at the parapet head, and then one that's used in the invisible strip head. So that detail looks like it's an invisible strip head strip condition. So let's just use this one. So very easy. Just go over here and click onto this row. Right click, hit copy. Now you can't use Control-C, so don't try that. Okay, so only the right click, copy, and paste will work in the UD window. So click into the empty row, right click, and then paste. And you'll notice that the UD window, the database does not like duplicate Revit resources. It'll show you by a red exclamation mark. But obviously this is not the same family because we're just using this as a baseline, right? So just take that, change that to the one we want, 007. So you see how the red exclamation mark disappeared, and then just change this into the detail. Right, I forgot what it is. So it is 1 on 506A. So 506A. then once that's done, hit apply first. Okay. So that takes care of the copy portion, right? So now you have to take a look at what is not included in the detail. So you have to modify it, right? So we know that the main body's there, the filler is there, the head insert, as well as the mini Mac. The one that's missing is this trim right here. So let's actually open up the strip head detail as a side-by-side comparison. So 505A, all right, very similar, just with the modification in the front. Okay, so these, you can either try to find it on the server if you have it or not, but it's only two-part. We can go ahead and just, enter these manually. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, before we begin, let's get rid of the trim, the part W75-3513, which is just the trim, because that detail doesn't show it. So let's delete that. Let's sort it out by the name, and just delete all the trims. Hit apply. Once that's done, let's go ahead and input the data for that channel. Alright, so just for this exercise, let's call it channel. Usually we'll look at the part name, so let's look at the part name for that. So it's the outer one. Let's just choose this one, the outer one, 212.218C. So this will be the tag username. Okay. Let's take out the letter C since it's kind of redundant. So let's start out with a very typical condition. Probably just make one condition for now because we don't really know the job yet. So let's just do the typical invert to invert. Invert 1 through 8 to invert 1 through 8. Very similar to that. To the one above it right here. So in this description, let's type in the little description. So just to remind us, right? So right here, there's parts 212, 218C, and also the other channel. That's called out. So once you go over here, let's input that manually. 218C. Invert to invert, so they'll probably follow the same as the head. If you want to check it, just go ahead and check it. Daylight. Auto cut on. You can ignore that delete. It wasn't. It was just an extra line item that needs to be deleted. Shop use attached because it's probably pre-attached to the head. If you take a look at the detail, you can kind of see that it can be pre-attached. So why not pre-attach it during assembly or during fabrication? Okay. So that takes care of the outer channel. So let's type in the other one. 214.7818C. Same thing, shop use. And then save it. Same adjustment. Alright, let's go back to First one with the miscellaneous. So we would want to tie the 07BS to the 212.218C, and the 214.7818C would have the 03BS. So both of them are 24-inch on center. Okay. So the 212 would receive the 07BS on center, and right here you would input 24 because that would tell us 24 inches on center. Okay, and this will be shop use because this will be pre-attached to the main extrusion. So let's do that with the other channel. So this one would receive the 03BS tied to it. Same thing on center. Also 24-inch on center and shop use. Hit apply. Okay, once we're done with the head, let's take a look at all the other ones that we need to do. So mark that off. Next one up is SW754113-001PR1. So same ordeal. Let's go to shop drawings and see where this occurs. Just go to your search. Usually you wouldn't want to put the PR1 because since a lot of these details are, I'll give you an example. So if you go to any of the details, it has the D at the end. So I like to just search for 4113-001. So it looks like there's only a PL and a PR, and same thing, or down here is the door. So PR1 might be an error in terms of the Revit family, or I don't, without digging too much into it, but it's definitely an error, or it might be an error. So another way to check it is if let's go into our S drive and go into the Revit family and see if that Revit family actually exists. If it doesn't, then we don't need to worry ourselves about that. So let's go into the parts library. Go into, oh, sorry, not the parts library. Always get those mixed up. Detail library. Go into Revit families. So just type in SW754113. So it looks like the ending is always a letter. So it'll be a PL or a PR. So it tells me that this PR1 is invalid. Could be old, but either way, it's not used anymore, so we don't need this anymore. So we can skip this guy. While we're here, let's go down to next. We see that it's 4118-001AN, PL, PR. See if that even exists. Let's do the same way. It doesn't exist in our current library, so let's backtrack and see if it exists inside the shop drawings. SW754118-001 AN. So there are families being used here, but it looks like it's being used at the pony tube, right? It almost looks no different than, look, if you look at this detail, it looks like it's being used as a typical jam. So let's split the screen. Maybe we can find another jam. Oh, let's cancel that. Let's just see if there's a other kind of jams on this job. So if you take a look here, there's a SW7541180001PL and a PR right underneath it. So let's click into that. So it looks like at that time of making this job for Vans, they had made two families, when in reality, this family right here, which is the 4118001, is sufficient enough to take care of the project. This is probably just a placeholder. So one way for us to do that, since we said, we look at the detail, it looks exactly the same other than the end dam, but the end dam usually goes with the horizontal. The jam, in this case, looks the same. So in our database, let's make it so that the 411AN is pointing to the original one. So what we can do now is let's just make copies of these two. So get the practice of copying and pasting data. You can just change this to AN, then change this to AN. Assign the detail. So this one is 1 on 561 and 2 on 561 on the right side. So 1 on 561 is on the left, and on the right is 2 on 561. Okay, hit apply first. Don't want to lose it. Okay, so now we're going to reference the detail back into the original, right? So the right side references the right. So this one would be 35551. Or a better way would just be copying the detail, to be honest. Okay, so that's done. Okay, so after that, since you're referencing back to the original, there's really no need for these uses, so because it's always just going to point to this one. So whatever you have here, you don't really need here unless you want some extra additional work, right? So if you have an angle, say for instance this Revit family has like an angle or something like that, then on this family you'll put the angle use here on this this family. But since it's the same thing, you can just go ahead and just erase everything here. It might take a minute because there's quite a lot of rules. Then over here, do the same thing. Then hit apply. So that takes care of these two. So we can mark those as green. And the next would be these four right here. Okay, so let's bring up your shop drawings. Okay, same thing, just search for the family that we're talking about, or that we're trying to complete. So SW75 52 62 3. Okay, we got some results, so let's click through them. So it's used here, as well as here where the sunshades at, but it looks like the common thing between the two details is the coupler. Same thing here. So it looks like this family was made for the mullions mated together. We got bolted units, right? So with that said, we can go into here. Probably do the same referencing. This time we'll probably just type in it manually, so you don't have to delete all the uses. So let's go back and see what the detail. 551A. So 2 on 551A. We're going to reference it back to the main family. And you may wonder why we're referencing it back to the main family. It's because the vertical fab doesn't really change, other than you have these extra attachments attaching them together, right? Which is the coupler, or in the other detail, it's the channel. So those are just attachment parts that we would do later. Okay, so let's point to the main family. The easier way would just be sorted out by Revit resource. So 5262, and it was an invisible. So you want to point it to this guy. And then the family, just I should say, when you copy the data, right click copy works, but if you were to just copy words, text, Control C still works. So you can go ahead and still do that. And Control V for pasting actually works as well. But it's just when you're copying data, like the actual data with all the stuff attached to it, all the uses, the assembly, and miscellaneous attached to it, Control C does not work. Change that to 013, and then we can add the same description. Okay. So let's take a look at the families here. So this is the 5263006, and then the one on the left would be the remaining ones that's on our list, right? So if you take a look, 007, 014. Okay, so why don't I pause the video here and let you guys finish the last three on your own. Same thing as the previous one, and then we'll come back when you're all complete. Okay, we're back. So you should have completed the rest of your data, at least the ones without the profile modifiers, right? So I forgot to mention that you should be placing the semicolon R or the L for some of these, right? If it's the male vertical, it's on the right side of the unit, so you will want to indicate it with the semicolon R, and then the female opposite, so it'll be semicolon L. All right. Hopefully it looks like this. Okay. I also added an additional description on the end of these, right? One says channel, one says coupler, channel coupler. Okay. So once that's done, let's try to fill out the rest of your data according to that's missing. So this time we're going to be focusing on the rest of these. Oh, let's mark these off first. So you can go ahead and mark those as green. So now we're going to deal with all the ones with the profile modifiers. But we're going to cheat a little bit, because what we like to do in the Takeoff group is we like to reference a lot of things that are built, right? Either grabbing it from the server or looking for another job to copy the data into your UD window and populating it that way. Okay, so for this exercise, luckily we're already using a pre-existing project, Vans. So let's go find that Takeoff program and then use that as a reference. So again, let's try to hit apply if we haven't done so already. So let's open up another Explorer, bring that over. So you should have everyone has access to the LA server, because Vans is an LA project. So just click into the LA project or LA drive. Okay, and if you don't know what it is, it's just this path right here, www.data.la. So let's go find Vans. Go into drafting, Takeoff. So here's the database for Vans. So just copy that and then paste it into your folder inside the desktop. Let's access that through here. So we can put that. I like to put them in there in the Takeoff group, just paste them in here. Might take a minute, so I'm going to pause the video here. Okay, so once that's done, I usually like to put the word reference in the back in caps. So it lets me know that this is purely just for referencing. Okay. So next, you're going to open up the database. So let's go back to your Takeoff program. Open up your Takeoff program. Go to open an existing project. Open up Vans headquarters reference. Okay. Once that's done, just hit the refresh button. And then you have the actual projects database. So you can kind of see here how it's like structured down. There's a lot more families. There's also an error too. So with that said, let's go ahead and just copy ones that are missing. So let's go down the list from the very top. Right. This DAS family and this as well. So there's two. So let's just copy those two. So you may move one. So you can either hold down the shift button or the control, but shift obviously it's chronological, so control will work better this time. So click the first one, then hit press and hold control, and then click the second one, and then copy. Alright. And then now this step's kind of cumbersome. You're going to have to go back to the Vans HQ folder, the one for the training. Once you have that open, hit refresh. Once that's hit, you can see that at the upper left, you can see how it says Vans HQ for training. So it tells you you have the correct database open. This is how you kind of know. Okay. So Just go in here, paste it. Voila. You knocked off 2 off your list. Okay. So, with that said, I want you guys to fill out your UD window based off of this list. So we already knocked these 2 down. So let's keep track. So let's go on this list and see if the reference database has all these. If not, then we can try to fill those out manually after. Oh, a tip. What we can do is if you find having the database open back and forth. Well, having a database open back and forth is something that you have to do regardless. But what you can do is you can, it's kind of hard to show off one screen, but you can actually have 2 AutoCAD sessions open, right? One with the Vans HQ, so the reference database, the reference database's UD window open, and this one will be your training, so you always have this one open. So what you can do here is, let's close this. I'll show you what I mean. Let me close this UD window first. Undock it. So you see how right now it's, if I refresh it, they both say Vans HQ training, okay? And I'm only doing this because I only have one screen, okay? So you should have 2 screens, so probably a lot easier. So just kind of simulating 2 AutoCAD sessions open side by side, one on each monitor. So first you would have to open the database for your reference, the reference database. So go ahead and open that. So once that is done, choose whichever AutoCAD session you want to have the reference UD window open. So I'm going to choose the one on the left, and then my thing is not docked, so I'm going to undock it, minimize it, and then just hit refresh. So again, now your Vans headquarters is the one that is your reference database, okay? Well, what you can do is, since it's your own personal database, to make it a little more clear, you can actually go to project information and then call this one reference. So once that is done, you can actually go back here and there you go. So now you have the word reference there, so it's a little more clear. Okay, once that is done, just minimize it. Okay. So once that is clear, so now you have this one up. Well, it's a little hard with one screen, so let's just dock. Okay. Perfect. Alright, so now you have one on the left is for your reference. For me at least, you can choose either one. And then the one on my right is the Vans HQ. So don't refresh the one that's for the training one, okay? So this one's already set for Vans headquarters. So now I want you guys to go back to your Vans, open up your Vans training database. Okay. So now in this one, you will want to, so right now your Vans reference database, do not refresh that one. Always keep this open with this window. Okay, and then on the right side, or for me, the right side, just make sure it's the advanced training one. You're going to refresh it. You already have the database open, so it's safe to refresh this one. Okay, so perfect. So now you can kind of see here, the right side is the one that you're working with, right? Is the training one, and then the left side is for reference. But since you already have it up and you didn't refresh anything, you can actually go ahead and copy uses here. So let's go down, let's do one together. So 5262, 5262, 265. Looks like these two are the next on the list. So let's copy these two. I kind of just dragged and highlight both of them. You can hold shift, you can hold control, however you want to do it. Just paste them in there. Mine's lagging a little bit. Yeah, apply. Might take a while. To pause here, so perfect. Alright, see, so once you hit apply, everything works. Alright, so why don't you guys go ahead and fill out the rest of your UD window according to the reference database. Okay, so you can go down, a little tip as well, you can copy multiple, right? Just make sure it's a part of the list that's missing. But a caveat to that, a warning, if you were to copy multiple, it's going to take longer to paste it into your UD window, and it's also going to take longer when you hit apply. And it might have a chance to crash your AutoCAD session too. Okay, so just a warning. All right, so why don't you guys go ahead and finish off the UD window database, the database for the training, filling that out, and then we'll come back and then see how you do. Okay. Okay. So by now you should have populated your entire UD window with referencing the actual project's database. So we probably don't need this anymore, so you can just close the reference one. Okay, let's go changes. Let's maximize this. So one way we're going to check whether or not we fully populated the data is to run another intersection report. So I'm going to pause the video here so you guys can open up the Van's Revit model to produce the intersection report. Okay, so once you have the Revit model open, and let's just hit refresh for this, pause for it. Okay, so if you remember correctly, how we generate the intersection report is through the www Takeoff tab. Just hit setup report. And here we're going to save the report inside the same training folder, inside Takeoff. Let's call this one intersection report. Let's call this one check. You can call it however you want. I'm just going to call it check. Okay, once that's done. Okay, so that's saved. Okay, we're going to pause the video here so you guys can, we're going to have a little quiz on how you would open up the new intersection report and then run the macros comparing it to your current database to see if there's any missing data. Okay, so again, this was covered in a previous video. So if you want a refresher, please refer to that video. If not, if you remember, then great. It will be a short task for you. So I'm going to pause the video here and see you guys back in a bit. Okay, and we're back. So you should have successfully ran the new intersection report. So if you have inputted all the data correctly, you should only have you shouldn't have any missing data, or one or two. I actually had one that I just inputted after. It was a DAS family, and then there's also this one, which is a family that does not exist at all. So with that being said, I think I'm okay with this intersection report. Looks like we have data for every single thing that's shown on the model. Well, with that, that concludes the takeoff data portion of the takeoff training. So after that, we will move into how to generate our the units from Revit.